Um, so let me go over levels a little bit. Another thing that you see a lot of times is it's kind of a standard. What people do is you bring your output levels, and output levels is basically what are the possible values after the adjustment. And by default there's 0 and 255. That means you have the full range of colors. A lot of times there's a trend to you basically subtract 5%, which is roughly around 10-12% or 10-12 values for both the black and the white. So you bring them in to around 244 to like 12, and people have different ideas of what the values are. But and the idea is that when you're going to the press can't reproduce all these colors, and usually you're losing about 5% on the ends of what's available to print. So I don't know if a lot of you've seen this. See no.
What about
but what I'm saying is don't do this.
Oh.
Okay.
I
I brought it up because a lot of people do this, and I didn't know if any of you were familiar with this technique. But the idea is that they're trying to compensate for what happens on press is that it will shift those colors a little bit, and you'll lose these values. But what you're doing by I'm going to go to an extreme here. I'm going to go back to this image real quick. What you're doing when you do that is you're clipping. Let's say I'll just make this neutral value. Neutral in RGB is 127 all the way across, if you need to know that. What you're doing is you're saying any information in this histogram from any value from 127 to 255. In this case, I'm going to go extreme. But what you're saying is you're clipping. 127 is the darkest black you could get. So you're basically flattening out all that information that's below it. That would be darker than this value. So I'm sorry, from 0 to 127, you're losing all that information. So even only 5% to around 11 or 12. You're still clipping information, you're losing information, and it doesn't make sense to do that. If the printer does it, that's fine. That's something on the press. Every press is slightly different, though you're going to lose some values. But let the press decide that. Don't do it manually. Do it yourself and lose that information.
You could be clipping information, and then when you take it to press, it could clip even more, right?
Correct. Yeah. Or less. And then let's say the press only clips it 3%.
Well, then you got 2% that you need to clip.
Right.
Well, why did they do that?
It's kind of a standard to kind of compensate. So basically, you can have a better feel of how it's going to look on press when you're correcting. But I don't agree with that process at all. So.
You should make a revolution.
A revolution, yes.
See, I never touch the output levels when I'm in there.
Right. And
I just mess around with it.
99% of the time, there's no need to touch that at all. Well, there is that 1% that you might be able to use, but I'm gonna go back into curves now. I just wanted to kind of go over that real quick. I'm going to curves. Now, a lot of people look at curves and a lot of people don't know what to do with curves. They look at it and they're like, I don't know what to do. What does this mean? Okay.
Yeah. It's curves.
What you're doing, it's basically a lot like levels. You have your output here on the left. You have your input. So basically, let's say I'll take this black point again, and I'll just drag it up, right? And it's doing the same thing. So your output right now is at 79. So it's taking this value, whatever was this pure black at 0, is now 79. And you can do that for anywhere in here. I'll take just a midpoint here, and we'll bring it up, right? And you can. It's important to look at these grayscale values because when you're working in CMYK, it defaults to down here pigment, so they're backwards. So it's important to keep track of that. That generally I work with light, so it's 0 to 255. So black is always in the bottom left, But what I'm saying here when I bring this up, I'm saying this value of 128 that was in the image as I brought it in is now 161, which is a brighter value. So I'm brightening the image, and since it's a curve, you can see that it's kind of proportionally brightening all these other values all the way down to the black point. Okay, so you're basically shifting all these values. And if we let me open the histogram, see, we can probably see that one. So I'll do it again. I'll just take that value and bring it up, and you can see how the histogram is shifting to the right, because that's where the white is. So it is shifting your histogram as you're working on it. So by taking this point and bringing it up, I'm brightening the image. Conversely, if I brought it down, then it'd be darkening the image, and you're shifting to the left.